Welcome to the Friends of Feedy's podcast, brought to you by Feed Canada, our funding partner, ISED, and founding partner, the Saskatchewan Food Centre. This show is all about celebrating the incredible journeys of female entrepreneurs in the agri-food and food manufacturing sector. We're here to dish out the secrets of success and serve up a side of inspiration along the way. We are the Feed program where dreams are made, businesses are born, and the agri-food world is your oyster. Let's dine together. Hello, and welcome to the most recent episode of the Friends of Feedy's podcast. I'm your host, Lindsay Toth. Today I spoke with Dalia Kohen. She is the creator of WildFolk, free-spirited botanical beverages, also known as a spirit-free beverage. Dalia and I spoke about the creation of her business during an uncertain time, which was COVID. Even throughout that time, she's managed to create a successful and thriving business, but she would have done things a little bit differently if her business hadn't been started during COVID. We also talk a little bit about some of the past experiences Dalia's had working in other industries, and even a cool HBO show that she did some work on not too long ago. So relax, take a listen, and enjoy. Hi, Dalia. Thank you so much for joining me on the Friends of Feedy's podcast. How are you doing today?
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We were talking before we started recording, and we're both feeling good but a little tired because we were just at the Table Talk and Advancing Women's Conference. How'd you enjoy that?
Yeah, that was amazing. It beat my expectations. It was wonderful to meet people from all over the place. I didn't realize how far the reach was, and yeah, just to have those connections and feel really inspired, and have created some, I think, really long-term or lifetime friends.
Yeah, it was amazing, and we both had the opportunity to speak at Table Talk, which is really cool. Have you spoken in front of groups like that before, or was that a new thing for you?
I've done some small talks, but I really appreciate the panel style, just kind of working together with another small group and kind of have the questions more directed versus having a large conversation and kind of spearheading a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I was just excited to talk about Table Talk and just all the great things we got to do this weekend. But what I should really do is allow you to introduce yourself and a little bit about your business for any of our listeners who might not be familiar with you and your story just yet.
Okay, yeah, sure. So my name is Dalia Kohen, and I launched WildFolk in 2021. And WildFolk are non-alcoholic cocktails reminiscent of classics. So they're really bold, layered, and complex. They're ready to drink in a 250 ml can format. And they were inspired by my time at the restaurant, also, a celebration out in Ontario with my husband. And we just wanted to keep the party going. We ran into this bar. We thought we were having alcoholic drinks, and they were actually non-alcoholic beverages. And I thought, oh, hey, I could do this at my own restaurant. And so took the idea, went back. I was already creating tinctures and bitters with ingredients that were left over from our community garden and some of the items that I would forage. And so I just turned them into non-alcoholic versions. And yeah, I thought it was a great opportunity to give an option to people who are still wanting to continue to party, but might have, had one too many, but they want to stay out and still be involved, and just prevent people from, either feeling left out or leaving the restaurant or an event with too much alcohol in their system and risk an accident when driving. So my husband's sister passed away from a drunk driving incident. So this was one of the other motivations.
Oh, wow. I didn't actually know that piece to the story. So you started playing with these recipes or developing these recipes while you were working at the restaurant. Is that correct?
Yeah. So there were always ingredients in the garden that we had excess of, coriander seed and rhubarb and things that previously we were throwing out. And so I was always just looking for different ways to use them. And the easiest way were different tinctures to kind of preserve them, previously in alcohol, but then we started doing them without the alcohol, and we were just able to freeze them and save them that way.
Okay, great. So I guess, can you tell us a little bit about that transition from going to, I'm making these in a restaurant, to now you have a business where you sell them to people as a packaged product?
Yeah, that was, there are a lot of crossovers, and then a huge amount of different and new sides to that. So, at the restaurant, we would basically make them in 1 liter volume, and we didn't carbonate them at the time, and we could just, get small batch basically. And so it was really easy. And then scaling up, it's always a guess. You're using so many botanicals, and just the cost to scale up is a lot. And then just kind of figuring out the different pieces with carbonation and how it looks past a single pot on a stove. So that's, I moved from a larger pot on a stove and little sieves to an apple press, like a water hydraulic apple press, to kind of extract. You're always trying to get kind of, in the restaurant, you look at prices, but the waste is a little bit different. You're pushing down with a spoon. You can kind of, squeeze out all of the excess, but then you go to a larger format and, trying to figure out the waste side, extracting as much as possible, and kind of the balance, because the recipe doesn't scale necessarily 1-to-1. So, I worked with the Leduc facility. They helped me for the first 2 recipes, scaling up, but there were a lot of surprises with putting things into the can. All of a sudden, shipping interprovincially, you're not allowed to be foraging and gardening for things, so you need all of your certificates. So that was a big surprise, is needing to kind of go internationally to find ingredients that actually grow locally.
Oh yeah. That, it sounds kind of counterintuitive when you say that, hey?
Yeah, it's, I know that there's a chamomile grower, for instance. I actually met her at Feed, but she doesn't have her certificates of analysis. I can't find anyone locally, so I get my chamomile from Croatia, and it hurts my heart because, it grows here so well with minimal, water, no needing to really tend to it, but I can't get it from here. So that's kind of one of the goals, is to help farmers and local producers navigate that process and have it look less scary. Like I'm switching honey producers right now. She didn't have her certificates, and she was asking me questions about it, and I don't have the answer for how to go through that process. But I think if I was able to do the research and kind of help direct people to where the resources are, and how simple the process could be, and what doors it could open up, I think that would be a benefit to more than just myself.
Yeah, absolutely. I do find that the food and beverage industry and everything around it, it does seem the barrier of like just accessing information seems to be higher than a lot of other industries.
Yeah, very true. I did go to, I'm bringing up Feed again. It's just so, it's in my mind right now, but I was at a talk with CFIN, and it seemed like they have a platform that will help navigate some of that. So I haven't had a chance, just catching up on the week's work, but I haven't had a chance to really check out their online platform. But it seems like they have they're trying to connect the provinces, and they're trying to create these conversations and have one spot to find some of these resources, rather than spending hours kind of digging online. So that's it. I'm excited to take a look into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, I mean, I'm biased, but I'm always glad to hear any pro Feed stories and stuff. So thank you.
Yeah.
Was there like a moment or a period or something that kind of made you realize or want to pursue going from creating this in the restaurant to actually creating like a packaged product to sell?
Yeah, so I sold the restaurant in 2021, and I kind of, I took a little bit of time off. My son was 1.5, and I wasn't able to kind of take that time off when he was first born. So I took the opportunity to hang out with him for a little while and kind of figure out what my next move was. And I was really burnt out from the restaurant and thought, I'm done with food and beverage. I need to do something else. Maybe I'll go back to forestry. Okay, wait, I won't be at home again. So maybe I'll go back into interior design. So those were two previous lives that I had had. And really food just kept calling me back. And I as much as I tried to push it away, I have such a passion for it. And so I had created 3 different business plans throughout the year, just looking at what kind of angle to take. So one was cookbooks and kid recipes, and it just didn't sit that well. Another was natural and health gummies for kids. But the one that stuck the most was really the botanical beverages. Probably because it was something that I had already created before, and just it really brought in the foraging and the gardening that I'm super passionate about. So that would be kind of the story on it.
Mm-hmm. And actually, I want to just dig into that for a second, because that's really interesting. You hear that sometimes from people. They're wanting to start a business, but they don't know exactly what, or trying to make that decision. So you actually went as far as to developing business plans and really kind of thinking through all these options before you really committed to WildFolk?
Yeah, and it took over a year. So I just think the business plan is so important, even if you don't have a partner. So you would need it for a bank or for funding, but just it really lays everything out and kind of gets your brain going on, is this an actual option? I had the previous business's business plan. And so it's nice to kind of just follow a format and fill in what you can and see where the gaps are, and see, just feel it in your gut, like what feels right. Is this something you kind of want to go into? Who are the people that you need? What's the financial need? All of that, I really feel like it brings it together.
Yeah, that's great. And just really well thought out way to just kind of make that decision and stuff. So I'm just curious about, now that obviously you chose your direction and stuff, can you tell us a little bit about some of the challenges of getting started in the industry?
One thing that wasn't a challenge, I'm going to start with that first.
Perfect.
Is that the community is just very helpful. And I don't know if it's because my product isn't in competition with a lot of others. So I would say that that's a huge difference with the restaurant industry versus the canned beverage industry, is that with the restaurant, and I don't know if it was my insecurities or that I'm female in a very male-dominated industry, but the restaurant was really competitive, and a lot of times I felt very alone with it. And with the beverage, I feel like a lot of the brewers, distillers, they're very collaborative, and they really want to help out. So I feel like I was very fortunate to kind of have a crew of people already, relationships established from the restaurant, but people that are always willing to help, always willing to jump on a call, help figure out different problems. So yeah, that was really nice. Challenges, though, there have been so many. Just the can size that I've chosen, I didn't really realize from the beginning. Some of the trademark challenges that I've had. Design has been really easy. All of the visual has been very easy, but I would say canning and production has probably been one of the biggest stresses. And I don't have a production facility, which I think is the way to go for me personally, because it just eliminates needing staff and the cost of building something out. But it presents a ton of challenges. Trying to fit into someone else's schedule. You're busy when they're busy, easily dropped, or the can size being not the same can size as the average beer has been challenging. And I would say ingredients, sourcing, the prices just really fluctuate. And out of stocks really fluctuate. I have kind of a high standard for the quality, they have to be 95% organic and some hand harvested, and so sometimes things come from the States and then the cost increases at the border. And yeah, I'd say production is the largest challenge.
Absolutely. I my background is very much marketing design. So that of course always intrigues me when that comes up. And yeah, you've done a great job with the look of your product and your website and everything. Was that something you've done? Did you hire an agency for that? How did you move forward with that piece?
Yeah, I'm working with a really small local team, and I think just being on the same page. So they weren't who I started with, but I quickly pivoted when I realized the first team just it wasn't feeling right. So it's pretty expensive to start up with a group. They want the onboarding fee to kind of dig and get some information. So yeah, that was a little bit of a hit to the first cost, but I think moving over was the right decision. They saw the vision, and it's a small group that's really easy to work with. And I think that's really important. They completely understand the product. They're familiar already with canned beverages. They had worked with a couple other beer companies. So I think that has helped a lot because, there's regulation around your labels. And so finding someone that really is familiar with your product, it's the first company that I worked with. They were great people, but their focus wasn't really on CPG products. And I think I would have had a lot of problems with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like with my work with Original 16, before I was ever in that space, I had no idea just all of like how specific all the requirements are on that packaging. So yeah, it's very different going from, doing a package for some random product that's unrelated and then getting into food and beverage. It's very specific. There's no room for error or creative decision making, I'll say.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to drop something that you wanted on that label because you need to put a warning on your product, or a barcode has to be a certain size. And when you're talking about a 250 ml can, every centimeter matters because you also need to draw people's attention. So I think they navigated that really well.
Yeah, absolutely. They did a great job. And yeah, it's always a fine line of including everything you want, but not having so much stuff that everything's competing for attention too. That's always it's a struggle. Yeah. Okay, so earlier a little bit you mentioned that you don't have a facility. So I'm assuming that you're co-packaging. Is that correct?
Yeah. But one of the challenges is the co-packing, finding the right equipment for my product. And so right now I'm currently co-packing in 2 different places. So I started a kombucha facility. That didn't work out because I do have a fermentable sugar in my product. And so I actually had some exploding cans. And I also then switching to my can size, we had a lot of leaking cans. So learned that lesson really quickly, moved over to another company who I thought had the proper facility, but they were really set up for water. So really clean, really beautiful facility, but not the proper filtration. And they were really set up for large volumes, which is the ultimate goal. But in the short term, it wasn't. I had a lot of waste in the line, a lot of wasted product. So I moved over. I decided to split it into 2 different facilities. And so I'm doing the first part at a brewery. So I make the concentrate there, and then I have to ship it to a canning facility.
Okay. And yeah, you were talking a little bit about your can size, and it's not the average beer can size. What kind of, I guess, how did you make that decision for like initially when you chose that size?
Yeah, so initially I chose the Red Bull can, which was a big mistake. The initial facility had the capabilities to do the can, and it was really pretty. And we had a relationship already from restaurant days, and so I jumped in there. And the mistake was that those cans were very hard to get. If Red Bull decides to put out a new flavor, they can call all the cans, and then nobody has access to them. So I was limited by that, and also only this one facility did it. So when we realized that the kombucha and my product weren't a great fit, I couldn't move anywhere else with that can. So I changed to a 250 ml sleek instead of slim. So still the same size, but just a little shorter and fatter. And that has the ability to work on a production line with beer. So it's the 250 ml at the same top, but a different size can. And I really wanted to stay in that size because it feels truer to a cocktail. You know, cocktails typically 3 ounces. And I mean, this is already 8 ounces, which is fairly large, but I think the most important thing to me was trying to get the feel, the layered complexity, the actual like weight and feel of a cocktail. And so if I went to 330 ml or 473 ml, I feel like you really lose that. You have to start adding a ton of water. It just ruins the cocktail. To me, then it goes back to being a soda, and that's what everyone is doing. They're doing a larger size because it's cheaper and it's easier and it makes them more money. They just add water and call it a cocktail. But I just feel like that's a little bit of a cheat. It's supposed to be bold. It's supposed to be complex. It's supposed to, have the feel. So someone is not guessing what they're drinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and that's so interesting too, because when you're making these choices, when people think design choices, you think colors and then that's it. But even just those little things of the type of can and what can feels a little bit more upscale. It's a piece in there too that you don't really think about it until you think about it.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that's like the money spent on schooling for interior design. I didn't actually really do too much work in interior design, and so if I took anything from that, I feel like it was the design of the restaurant, the colors on the walls, and then the can packaging. So even though I didn't design it, just approving the kind of the look and feel. It just makes me feel better that I money went to something.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there's something to be said for someone. It's just having a good eye to know what's good, what looks good, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and that combined with the people that were in the restaurant, I think, people say that they want less sugar, more bitter, things like that. And then when you put something out there, put the Negroni in front of people in the panel, out of 20 people, almost everyone with the exception of one person, chose the sweetest drink. And the same thing would happen with our menu, with our beverage menu at the restaurant. It was, we want less sweet, but the people chose by what they ordered. They would order the strawberry, the elderflower, all of the sweet drinks, and the drinks that were less sweet, a little stronger, a little more smoky, they were less popular. And so it's, I think there learned to really pay attention to what people want. What do people order? What are they going after? What's the aesthetic? What's the flavor? What's that type of thing? I basically lived there. I spent so many hours in that place, and there were a lot of regulars. And so, observing people and also asking people, like when these drinks were being served at the restaurant, they kind of made the tweaks for me on those first 2 recipes. So I had, even without knowing that I was going to be canning them, it was, what's your opinion on them? How can they be improved? And so it was really fortunate because I launched during COVID and you couldn't do all the samplings and some of the studies. So I think that was also, one of the reasons for launching this. I had that feedback already from people and saw that people were enjoying the product. So I felt like it would be more successful, where the other things were kind of a shot in the dark.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned your first 2. So those were the first 2 free-spirited cocktails that you went to the market with?
Yeah, so started with, at the restaurant we had the Negroni, so it wasn't sparkling. We had the vermouth. We added a little bit of soda into that one at the restaurant, and then a basil crush. But the basil crush, to me, it was popular, but it wasn't based off a classic cocktail. So And basil is one of those hard ones. Basil, mint, all the mojitos out there, I find it hard to get the authentic basil flavor. A lot of them add flavorings into it, and I didn't want to do that. So, yeah, herbs are very hard without feeling kind of like bruised or almost too earthy. So yeah, I stuck with vermouth spritz and sparkling Negroni, and then I've recently added the bee's knees, which is one of the most popular. I have a limited edition, the bitter tongue. It's an Amaro. So it was meant for bartenders and restaurants that want to create their own versions to get some of that bitterness into their drinks. So that was just a limited run. I have half a pallet left, and then I wanted to bring in a mezcal margarita and then bring back a different version of the Amaro for next year. That has the ability to be a mixer or also drink on its own, because more and more people are appreciating Amaros.
Great. Yeah. Tell me a little bit then about getting started. You have your two, like you've made the decision, you've kind of got your first initial two. Are you going to farmers markets? Were you trying to get right into retail? What was kind of that process for you?
So I did sign up for a few markets, but first I had gone to a lot of the local places where I had already had established relationships with because of the restaurant. So some of the smaller markets, we used to kind of buy farmer produce through them. So yeah, I went to small grocery and some boutique stores, some spas, and some breweries. Yeah, and I'm trying to remember how many people right off the bat. I think I started with about 40 stores. And I think having those relationships and starting in the small places were super beneficial because you have a little bit more one-on-one. You can book in for samplings. You can get feedback on the product pretty easily.
That's great. So yeah, so you just through your own connections, you were able to get yourself into 40 stores and then starting to build up a bit more from there.
Yeah, and I stayed actually away from the restaurants at the beginning, which is funny, and stayed away from farmers markets, and that was partly because of COVID. So I think I would have gone a completely different route if places were open, but at the time, restaurants were opening and closing, and there was just a lot of uncertainty, and people were dining out less. They were going and buying their groceries. They were ordering e-commerce. So I set that up right from the beginning. Now e-commerce has kind of dropped a little bit because, shipping's so expensive. It's increased. It's gone up on, like my product is so heavy to ship. And so more places have also, like grocery stores have offered delivery for free and kind of combine a mixture of products. So, but at the beginning, e-commerce and grocery stores or small boutique shops were the busiest, and so I went that route. Farmers markets were again open, closed. People didn't want to be in public spaces. They, once busy, were I think limited capacity. So
yeah, that really kind of affects like the timing of it. Really just affects how the direction, I guess. Hey.
Yeah, definitely. Because I know most people, and it was really recommended to start, like I took the Awesome program, and I know a lot of people said that they started at farmers markets, and people were pushing that over and over again. I think, yeah, if it were a different time, I would have definitely explored a booth at a farmers market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, and we've kind of already touched on a few different challenges that you faced with like this whole process. Is there like any like big challenges that you overcame kind of outside of the stuff that we've already talked about?
So another challenge is the financing, the funding, and I have not overcome that, but I feel like I'm in a better direction. I put together a pitch deck and kind of worked through some of the big questions, the overall company questions. The canning, I would say I'm 70% of the way there, at least the production side. Like I understand the process, the easiest process. And so when interviewing or going to new potential places where I could pack, I know I'm clear on the questions that I could ask. I'm trying to think of one big thing that I think every day just gets easier and then harder and then easier and then goes back and forth.
That the good old like 2 steps forward, 1 step back sort of thing. So I'm asking you about challenges and stuff. The flip side of that, do you have any success stories that you just feel like really kind of represent the journey you've been on?
Yeah, I think so. I've built out a spreadsheet, and I have customers or potential vendors in there, and it feels like a big win when someone said no for so long, whether they don't have space on their shelf or they've already reviewed the category and your timing is off, whatever reason. It's always an amazing feeling when you get that email with the first order, and then that feels good. But the best is when you get the reorder. You've proven that you're successful there. One example would be like Sunterra. You make all these promises to them. On your first order, I'll give you a discount, and I'll do 4 samplings and all of these things. And you can kind of tell the tone back is a little bit reluctant. They put the order in, and you do everything that you say that you're going to do, and you see the success in the store. It's a really good feeling.
Yeah, amazing. So is your team like just you? Are you the one doing all of this?
It's fluctuated. So I have the branding team that's external. I did recently have a marketing team that has kind of dissolved. They were going to start a company and dissolved the team. And so I'm working freelance with a couple of the members, but I kind of took that part over again. So I'm doing the social media, and I had a friend temporarily helping while she was in between 2 jobs, and she was helping with some of the sales. So now I'm back on sales as well. So, which I like. I love the connection point to people. So it's just more my time there's just a lot to do in a day. So there's myself, and then right now, other than all the external help and the co-packers, internally there's myself. And my husband helps a little bit on the spreadsheets, and I have a part-time operations manager. And he's like an everything guy that's amazing. He's like my lifesaver. He's everything spreadsheets as well, and just kind of reminds me to breathe when things are feeling overwhelming.
Yeah, that in itself is huge. Just helping calm.
Yeah, and also like the workspace I have a warehouse that I store all my product, and a place called Shed Point, and I find a lot of value here. There are a couple other food brands, and so it's really nice to also be surrounded by people that have a lot of experience you can kind of go to for questions as well. So one is Stoked Oats, and they've been in business for a number of years, and I'll have a question about just distribution or CHFA that's coming up, or things that they've already done, and they're always willing to kind of give their opinion and time. And then there's a ghee company in here as well, OGE, and we've kind of started in parallel with each other at the same time. And so even sharing printing prices and some of the small details that the daily chaos really is beneficial. So even though they're not part of the team, they're really an extension of the team.
Yeah, absolutely. So many groups and people that can kind of help in little ways. Yeah.
It's like I'm alone, but there's a lot of people around. So it's just yeah. It's important. It's really important.
Yeah, try and feel a little less alone, hopefully, with all those. So do you have anything kind of in the works for the future that you want to talk about or can talk about, or is it more continuing on?
Yeah, the Mezcal Margarita. I mean, I've been talking about it for over a year. It was supposed to be released last May, and I missed that mark. Now it's supposed to be released this May, but I'm finding the funding a little bit tight, so I'm just kind of crunching the numbers on that. It's like making sure that I have, with this type of business, you sit on a lot of inventory. And so I'm like, cash flow is, I guess I can't stress that enough. Like if someone's listening that is looking to start a business, I think like making sure that you have enough money from the start is very important, because you can just be kind of stopped in your tracks. I have all of these ideas, and feel like I'm not able to do them. So yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to launch. I have the recipe for the margarita. I have a partial label. I have almost everything ready. I just don't know if I have the finances to launch it and maintain everything for the current line that I have. So yeah, just trying to figure that piece out. So there was that. There's a mixed 4-pack box that's all designed that was supposed to be launched around Christmas time with the 4 flavors. So one mezcal, one Negroni, one vermouth, and one bee's knees. But yeah, I guess I'll see on that as well. So
Absolutely. Okay, so I have just a question about this, for myself, because I don't fully understand. Because is mezcal not alcoholic, or is there? Because I always think of it as like an alternative to tequila. Is that incorrect?
It is, yeah. So it's kind of like the Negroni. Like the Negroni's 1 part Campari, 1 part vermouth, and 1 part gin. So I've really dissected different alcohols, because really alcohol, wine, beer, all of it, it's just their herbs, their roots, their rinds, their grains, their botanicals, and then you just add the alcohol in. So basically I've taken what the notes are that would be in the alcohol and just not added the alcohol, or I infuse instead of distill, so that there's no alcohol process in it.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So like for the Negroni, for example, there's 26 botanicals in that one, because I have the 3 different alcohols. You'd have the botanicals that are in the gin, botanicals that are in the vermouth, and the botanicals that are in the Campari, and the Campari color really comes through. So it's just playing with ingredients.
Okay.
And like smoke and salt and spice for the mezcal.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, thank you for kind of explaining that to me, because for a second there I was just trying to, but so
you're like, so you're doing an alcohol one? I know I forget sometimes that where my brain goes and don't explain the full story.
Yeah. Well, and like I assumed as much, that it's, continuing on the same line of these spirit-free drinks, but at the same time too, it's like, okay, well, sometimes it's like, okay, I need a second to fully understand.
Yeah, and with these as well, you can add alcohol in, but the nice thing is you can adjust the amount based on your body, your size, what you're doing. So, again, in a Negroni, I'll take that one as an example. It's 3 ounces of alcohol typically. So if you want to go out for the evening and you have 3 of those, you've just basic math, 9 ounces, 9 ounces that you've just consumed in a short period of time, and that just doesn't leave people feeling good, especially with an increase in depression and it's not great. But you can take a WildFolk Negroni, you have all of the flavor. You can add 1 ounce of gin, for example, or 1 ounce of bourbon, and have a cocktail, and then you've had 3 ounces throughout the night versus the 9. So it's just limiting, but there's enough flavor in all of the drinks to be able to add kind of your own thing to it.
Amazing. Yeah, I love that. It's just and it keeps you open to people. Like, you've got your people who don't drink at all, and then people who do consume alcohol, but just a way to reduce. I love that.
Yeah, and it's like 1 can you can really share and celebrate together. So it's 8 ounces. With a typical drink being 3 ounces, you actually get more. You get a 4-ounce pour. 1 person can add alcohol, 1 person doesn't have to, and nobody feels left out. There's no judgment. You're still having the same thing. It still feels, you're still connecting with the person across from you. And I think that's the most important thing. And that's the thing that I loved about the restaurant, is watching people share special moments, coming in, celebrating, and this is a nice continuation from that.
Yeah, that's lovely. Yeah. I am going to pivot to do some quick questions, like just a little quick get to know you round. Would you say you're more of a morning person or a night owl?
Night owl for sure.
Are you a dog person or a cat person?
Dog.
What's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Ooh, oh no, that's so tough. Well, right now there's a made by Marcus mini egg, and I really love it. I think anything like chocolatey, salty, caramelly, those flavors.
We're very on the same page. Okay. So what about your favorite color?
Blue and green, which I wear right now.
Do you have a favorite book or author?
No, I think I really go, I'm all over the place with authors. I feel like it changes from, being inspired by a specific chef to, someone who is really focused on like numbers and business. And I don't read a lot of fantasy or anything like that. So I just read a lot of like the fact books and the dry dry books, but there's not one person I would say that really inspires me.
No, fair enough. What's the last TV show you binge watched?
I don't watch a ton of TV. We don't have one actually. We just have a screen. I mean, we can get shows on it, but yeah, for the longest time I wasn't watching anything, and then now, most recently, I watched The Bear, and I absolutely love it. And I think it's just the connection again to the kitchen, and there's parts of it I miss. Yeah, and it felt like a true representation of what happens, and yeah, I really liked it.
Yeah, that's
for the third one.
That's what I was just going to ask. Is I've heard from different people, you would say it's it's realistic in somewhat what it's portraying.
Yeah, the stresses and the chaos and the people quitting and the just like every day is a new day, and and it's nice to kind of watch that and feel it, but not be the one that it's happening to.
And it's like almost a little bit of therapy to be like, just kind of like see it and process it for someone else. Okay. I have 2 more questions, and our speed round didn't end up being so speedy, but I'm still really enjoying it either way.
Sorry, when I went on and on about the ice cream, I got blocked on that one. Ice cream is such a passion, and then
No, I love it. The whole point is get to know you more, so I appreciate it. What's a favorite way you like to unwind after a long day?
Well, we got a hot tub, and that is probably my favorite thing is family hot tubs, just going in there and being kind of trapped together and in hot water and knowing that it's the end of the day.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And so do you have a favorite hobby outside of work and everything?
I love going to the mountains. I love cross-country skiing. I love snowboarding. I wouldn't say that I do enough of it, but when I have time, those are kind of my favorite things to do.
Amazing. All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time to sit down and chat with me. And I feel like we really got to know a little bit more about you and WildFolk and just the cool journey you've been on.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm laughing because one thing that as I mentioned, that I don't watch a lot of TV. One thing I do in my doing air quotes here, my spare time, which there's not a lot of, is work in film. So I actually work on film sets doing some cooking for actors and stuff. So I just laughing to myself here because I don't watch a lot of TV or a ton of movies, and I never know who any of the actors are that people are swooning over. So it's funny that I work in it but don't do it. So that's why I was kind of chuckling to myself on that question.
Oh, very cool.
So
so would it like it would be like more so like catering for the set? Is that kind of what you're talking
doing
about?
some of the catering for the actors, and then like with a focus on vegetarian for the vegetarian people, and I've done food props, so creating different items like birthday cakes or 3 times over so that they can film, and then if they have to keep filming it, it kind of looks the same. So
awesome. Very cool. Okay, so is there any like show or movie or whatever that that's like kind of like a big deal that you've worked on, even if you didn't like watch it or anything, but that other people might know of?
Yeah, I did actually watch this one, The Last of Us. I worked on that one.
Oh, very cool.
And yeah, that was really amazing to see it kind of come together with we had a lot of night shoots. We worked overnight. It was just like crazy hours, and partly because of the costumes, and they were just, it was just incredible, like incredible makeup work, incredible costumes, incredible sets, like just over the top. And so that was pretty special.
Very cool. So in that case, was there any like food that was on screen, or was it more just the catering side of things?
On that one, I did the catering.
Very cool. I very much enjoyed that show, so I love to hear that connection. That's awesome.
Thank you. Side tidbit. Side life.
I love that. I love getting those little side stories, so I appreciate that.
Thank you so much to Dalia for joining us in this episode of the Friends of Feeties podcast, and thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you to our listeners for indulging your entrepreneurial appetite with this episode of Friends of Feeties, brought to you by Feed Canada, our funding partner ISET, and founding partner, the Saskatchewan Food Centre. If anything we have discussed today has ignited an entrepreneurial fire within you, but you're not quite sure how to get started, or you're craving mentorship and coaching to help grow your business, please reach out to us at feed.ca. That's FEAD.ca. Connect with us on social media. We're sprinkled all over the digital landscape, and our team is ready to provide the mentorship and coaching you need to flourish. At Feed, we're here to empower women in the agri-food industry, so don't hesitate to reach out to us to join our vibrant community of foodpreneurs. Until next time, bake those dreams into reality, stay hungry for success, and continue to nourish your entrepreneurial spirit with Feed. Bon appetit.